Hello, if you're one of my students, you should have your notes out and be following along with your notes and answering questions and stopping the video when you need to. Also, remember in your notes that there is that blank section on the left that is for writing 5 questions that you make up using the notes. These are questions that you think I might ask on the test because I'm giving you this information for a reason because it's going to be on the test. So, 5 questions you think I will be asking that you can study for the test. If you are not one of my students, then I hope you're enjoying these videos. I hope they help you. If you are a homeschooler, I have the notes available on Teachers Pay Teachers, or if you are a teacher using these videos with these classes, you can also purchase my notes on Teachers Pay Teachers. We are studying Chapter 1 in Purposeful Design Physical Science about composition of matter, and today our topic is about substances. So, our objectives today are to explain the purpose of classifying matter and to distinguish between different types of matter. And you might be asking, why is it necessary to classify matter? Why do we even have to talk about this? Well, it's because we want to be able to study matter or classify matter in order to study creation in detail. We also want to be able to talk about creation. And really, as human beings, we classify pretty much everything around us. Take a look at this silverware drawer. In the silverware drawer, you have what we would call silverware. We might even call them eating utensils. And we further classify those down into forks, spoons, and knives. You may even have different, in your silverware drawer, you may have different forks. You might separate the salad forks from the dinner forks. You might separate the soup spoons from the teaspoons. You might separate the butter knives from the steak knives. Also, you can see in this drawer, we separate things by their purpose. We also separate them by what they're made out of, perhaps. You can see that some of the spoons are made out of plastic, so maybe you separate your plastic spoons from your metal spoons. So, we do that also in physical science to help us better study creation and for communication purposes. If you send somebody to the silverware drawer, you usually say, go get me a fork. You just don't say, go get me a piece of silverware. We have to be a little more specific. And so that is also why we classify in physical science. So all around us is matter. Matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. So I have this picture here. And if you take a look at this picture, I want you to take a look at it for a minute and think of the different kinds of matter you see. So I'm going to pause for a few seconds to let you do that. Okay, so in this picture, I see metal that makes up this machinery. That is matter. I see the soil and the rocks underneath the machinery. That is matter. I see even just right in here, oh, right there are some plants. That is matter. The clouds in the sky are matter. And one thing you don't see in the picture that you know is there is the air. Air is also matter. So all these things have mass and take up space. We also classify matter as we can talk about pure substances. A pure substance is a substance of constant composition that possesses definite qualities. And in my picture, I have over here some pure substances. I have gold. I have a diamond, water, table salt, and baking soda. These are all examples of pure substances, but even these substances we can break up into more categories. Pure substances can be categorized as either an element or a compound. And so, first, let's take a look at an element. An element is a pure substance that cannot be broken down into simpler substances by physical or chemical means. So, if we take a look here of my pictures that I showed you previously, those things that are elements are gold and diamond. Diamond is made out of carbon. And so these are elements. And elements are made up of smaller particles called atoms. This is the smallest unit into which an element can be divided and still maintain its properties. So we can take that big piece of gold and we can break it down smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until we get down to one gold atom, which we cannot see. But theoretically, we could break it down to one gold particle, one gold atom, and it would be gold the whole time. The same is true for that diamond. We can break it down and break it down and break it down until we get to one carbon atom that would make up that diamond. There are also compounds. A compound is a pure substance consisting of atoms of two or more elements that are combined in a fixed proportion. So in my previous pictures of pure substances, the compounds are water, which contains hydrogen and oxygen atoms. But notice they're in a fixed proportion. That 2 behind the hydrogen means that behind the H means that there are 2 hydrogen atoms for every 1 oxygen atom in water. Table salt is sodium chloride, NaCl, and there's 1 sodium atom for every chloride atom. And then baking soda, sodium bicarbonate, is NaHCO3. So there are actually 4 different atoms that make up baking soda. Sodium, hydrogen, and carbon, there's only 1 atom for every 3 atoms of oxygen. Now, like elements are made up of atoms and can be broken down until you get down to 1 atom, compounds are made of molecules. This is a particle consisting of 2 or more atoms chemically tied together. So here we see that this is a model. We cannot see molecules. This is a model of a water molecule showing that fixed ratio of how hydrogen and oxygen are chemically tied or bonded together in that fixed proportion to give us an idea of what this might look like if we could actually see it. We cannot see atoms and molecules with our eyes. Here is a model of sodium chloride. For every sodium, actually these are ions, we'll talk about that later. For every sodium ion, there is a chloride ion bonded to it in this structure. And if you've ever seen a crystal of table salt, you've noticed that it's in a square. And so we can use this model to help see why it is the shape it is. And then sodium bicarbonate, baking soda, this is how all of the atoms fit together to make a molecule of sodium bicarbonate. So these models help us to picture what these look like. So the objectives we covered today are, we talked about the purpose of classifying matter to help us better study creation and talk about it. And we also distinguished between different types of matter. We talked about the fact that there are pure substances and they can be broken up into elements, which are made up of atoms, and compounds, which are made up of molecules. And each molecule is made up of atoms that are chemically combined together. So what I want you to do now is, if you are my students, you should have been filling in your notes. And I want you to go ahead and write your 5 questions.